Good afternoon, buenas tardes. What I want to tell you is how small the world is. Here's Eloy Cepero, who just was ahead of me. He had a very good friend in Bahia Honda. That same person went to Guanabacoa and became my best friend, since we live right around the block from each other.
Wow. And he was my best friend in Bahia.
That's what I just... How small the world is. I want to take this opportunity to recognize a person who has made a trip, especially from Wilmington, Delaware, to this conference. I want to introduce the Honorable Ida Wasserstein and her husband, Eric Dorshow. The Honorable is a judge in the city of Wilmington, Delaware, and she is a Pedro Pan. She was sent also by HIAS, the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, to Philadelphia, and then she stayed around the area. I just want to tell you a little bit about the Jewish experience. As I said, I grew up in Guanabacoa, and I just found out Maria Helios also from there. And it's interesting, I was living on the Calle Candelaria one time that was renamed Rafael de Cárdenas, very close to two streets, one called Amargura and the other one called Desamparado. As a kid, first at Colegio Lancha, Masluz, and then at the Jewish school in Santo Suarez. First two were in Guanabacoa. You know, those streets, I was walking, I would ride the bicycle every day, just another street name. But then things changed. And when I remember very distinctly the change from from Batista to Castro. And then things started getting a little bad as we went in 1959-60. Some of you may remember the name Lumumba. I made a joke when I was in second year high school about Lumumba. And I was taking a psychology class, and the teacher didn't appreciate the joke I had made. So happens that she was the wife of one of the guys that was, I think, head of the escolta of Fidel Raúl. So anyway, I was always a little bit on the outspoken side. My brother was going to medical school. Then one day he comes home and he says, I was told to become a miliciano, otherwise I will not be able to attend anymore. So he said, I'm not going to become a miliciano, and then therefore he had to look for other ways. So the opportunity arose from him to go to Israel. So he went on the first flight that went from Cuba to Israel. He's 6 years older than I am. And then he started writing what he had to do there in the kibbutz, and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and worrying about all these things. And I started saying, this is not for me. And as my situation deteriorated. Now with grandparents and parents who had already gone through an exodus in their lifetime, they had, my grandfather, may rest in peace, he took the risk in 1926 to go to Cuba from what is now Belarus. People ask me, where your family from? I said, depends the year. When they were born in White Russia. Then when they left, it was with a Polish passport. Now it's Belarus. And 7 years later, my mother and the rest of the family came to Cuba with grandmother and 5 other kids. And you know, we had a very nice life. My parents, my entire family loved Cuba. We were well taken care of by the communities. Guanabacoa was an adorable place. And the day came when one day I started going, every Sunday I used to meet in El Vedado in the Cuban Jewish community. And we started seeing every Sunday somebody else was leaving. And I said, what's going on here? Until 2 cousins of mine says, we're leaving in 2 weeks. I said, where are you going? We're leaving Cuba. I said, how are you leaving? You don't have a passport, you don't have a visa, do this, that. I wouldn't know, we're just going. So I came home, told my parents, and he said, then we called my aunt, senior aunt. She doesn't know anything about it. I say, oh, come on, this is nonsense. So fortunately, the parents, the father of the kid, the girls, was my godfather. So I went to him and I said, tell me what's going on here. How are they going? So finally, he told me what was going on. And he says, you want to leave? I said, yes, because otherwise I'm going to get into trouble here. And he took me to a place in downtown Havana, La Habana Vieja, to an individual by the name of Mauricio Jalevis, who was the contact with the Jewish highest Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, which was an organization which is now celebrating 130 years old. They have helped to resettle Jews throughout the world. And he had a store, and at noon when they closed, he would take care of these kids, take the applications, and then send them to New York. And then a few weeks later, he came and he brought me this visa waiver. And here I was supposed to leave just before the Bay of Pigs, but because of the Bay of Pigs situation, the airport closed for several days. So I did not get to leave until May 10th. And I spent Bay of Pigs in Miramar, even though I was in Guanabacoa because my uncles were there, watching how the people were being brought into the Blanquita auditorium. Anybody that weekend that looked happy, especially in Buena Vista, right next to the Columbia, I watched how they were being picked up on a bus and brought over to this Blanquita. In any case, I left May 10th. I thought I was going to be in Miami like some of my friends. I get down. We also had a George. He's still alive. He's in his 80s. His name is Alberto Baruch. And when I come down from the stairs, he says, here's your tickets. You're going to Los Angeles today at 7 o'clock. I only had an aunt with 2 kids here who didn't know she knew I was coming, but not when. I wanted to surprise her. Called her, immediately ran, nothing to be done. At 7 o'clock, I still remember getting on an airplane. It's interesting, now that we talk about code sharing and sharing, I remember very distinctly it was an American Airlines jet, one of the newer Boeing 707. First leg was Miami to New Orleans. It said they're National Airlines, remember that? The second leg was from New Orleans to Dallas, Fort Worth. It said Delta, and then the last leg, Fort Worth to Los Angeles, was American Airlines. Anyway, I was there, I was put in foster homes. People I never know in my life. Call home, those remember very distinctly, a call from Havana to the United States was at the time $12.50 for the first 3 minutes. Anybody remembers that? And I was basically going to school. I was able to adopt relatively fast. I was treated well. And I was shifted to another foster home within a few months. And there, in the San Fernando Valley area of Los Angeles, city of Van Nuys, I meet 2 brothers who were right in the same class. These 2 brothers who had come from Cuba, their uncle had brought them over, was an individual by the name of Candido Hernandez, may he rest in peace. He was the uncle. He brought him from Cienfuegos through Spain to Los Angeles to live with him. We became friendly. And I had to walk about 6 blocks from the school to the bus stop. And as you know, Los Angeles doesn't rain much, but when it rains, it can rain for days. So I had, we became friendly. Every morning he would come in, say hello to all of us, and come and pick him up. I would go then. One day I asked him, could you please take me to the bus stop? And he said, of course. So he did that a couple, 3, 4 times. Then he realized that I was somewhat desamparado. And he said, you know what? He was Catholic. He says, I'm not Jewish, but I'm going to go to the administration of this Jewish place you're at, Vista del Mar. Vista del Mar. Nombre español, pero it was originally a Jewish orphanage, founded in 1908. They were responsible for me. And he says, I'm going to ask for them to allow you to come spend time with us on weekends because tú necesitas un ambiente criollo los fines de semana. And he did that. Now, this man traveled, okay, never met him in my life except through the equivalent distance from Dayland to Aventura, 29 miles. 4 trips to come and pick me up, take it to his house, back and forth. Did that for about 7 or 8 months. And he said to me one of those trips, Marcus, you need to learn Hebrew. Hebrew. Cándido, tú estás loco. I have enough problems learning English. What do I need Hebrew for? He said, Marcus, you're Jewish. You should always be proud of your background. The Jews have given a lot to the world. The only way you're going to learn the culture, the history, everything about the Jewish people is through the language. He's giving me an advice that I went in one ear, went out the other. Not realizing that 17 years later, I was going to be the head of an Israeli bank in Miami. Isn't that something where some people give you advice a lot of time and we don't listen to it? In any case, finally my uncles started arriving, and I came. They claimed me. Every time that I would ask to be sent to Miami, because some of my friends were here, I don't know why I was selected to go to LA. Still a mystery. But it's interesting that this place I was under the supervision, I was called Vista del Mar, as I said, their logo to this day, it is two kids holding an umbrella. And from time to time you would see the actual letterhead when it was in color, they would have the umbrella in red. Look at years later, we have a book on our operation, the red umbrella. So I came back to Miami. My brother came back. He went to Atlanta with a friend. And my parents arrived just before the missile crisis. And we decided all to resettle in Atlanta, where I finished high school, and I went to Georgia State University, got my accounting degree, because that was the only thing that I was doing well in. Because I was in Miami several months with my uncle until my parents arrived. I was well treated. I was eating well in Los Angeles. One day I asked my uncle at the dinner table, I'd like to have a steak. He said, a steak? You see, we're having breakfast 3 days old. If you want a steak, go to work. So I went downtown Miami and I started walking out. There was a restaurant called Black Angus Steakhouse, and I asked for a job, and they gave me a job. And I was the salad man having two steaks a day. But there was one problem. You see, everything's got a catch. The catch was that now I was going to Miami Beach High for several weeks. And I was going to class from 7:30 to about 2:30, started working at 4 until 11 o'clock at night. And then on Saturday and Sundays, I had a split shift. I had to go for lunch, then work 2 hours, and then go back at 5 for dinner until 11. The end result was I was a senior, and I said, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to flunk, because the only two things I was doing well in was bookkeeping, and it was phys ed, even though it was not very. So I called my brother and I said, guess what, you're gonna have another roommate. And I went there. Unfortunately, I got help. We found another type of job, and I was able to finish my senior year and then get to Georgia State. That's how the whole idea come into accounting. And I have had two very excellent professions in my life, one of being a banker, and I got some of my colleagues here, including Cepero, who I also met when he was in the banking industry. We got a couple of others here in the back. And also, I've always enjoyed teaching. And while in Atlanta, I started teaching at the Temple Sunday School. And I've had already a career in teaching since the early 70s, and I've been at FIU since 1980, and I love it. So I just want to tell you that as we look at this, and I look back at Guanabacoa, even my parents have said, they didn't want to go back until changes took place. And there's one thing I remember. My parents had a very small store, clothing store, which they just finished building the building in 1957. And my mother's, as they were construction and they had to redo the sidewalk, said, we're going to inscribe the name of the store on the sidewalk in granite. The name of the store was La Sin Rival. And I'll tell you, the Pedro Pans have no rivals. We're unique, and it basically follows the experience that we have as the Pedro Pans. The Jewish kids, some of those 10,000 originally from Kinder Transport, were lucky. I think we have been luckier, because some of those kids that went to England didn't make it either. So I think we should be proud that we have a community with sin rival. Thank you very much.